Very sorry for the lag in getting an episode out. Shit has been fucking hectic. I moved both studios into one, machine studio. Fuck, my dog's barking. Maybe he'll chill. But anyway, so things have been totally crazy, and no excuse, but it's just been really keeping me away from recording this. But here we are. I'm going to try to knock something out pretty quick here. I think it's kind of timely considering, we're at the end of the year and all this New Year's resolution shit's about to start coming up. So I've been thinking a lot about time lately, and there's a couple different ways you can look at it. So I'm almost 50 years old. So a lot of times I tend to, a lot of the entrepreneurs and business people that I follow, they're further ahead than me. And a lot of them are younger than me or about the same age as me, or, or they got much further, much younger, all this kind of shit, And so I find myself in this kind of trap where, where I think like, fuck, man, like that guy's like way further ahead and he's like 35 or 40 something or whatever. And it kind of fucks with me a little bit. But, when that stuff happens for me, I just remember that any kind of changes that I would have made in my past wouldn't have led me to where I am now, which, I don't think I would be in the relationship with Jesse. I wouldn't have the dogs that I have. I think I've talked about that already, and that's not necessarily what I really want to get into. What I wanted to talk about is there's two different ways to look at it, and you can look at it both ways, depending on the situation. So if you follow Gary Vee, you may have seen him, talk to somebody that's like maybe 50 years old and say, I'm starting all over and I'm starting from scratch. And they seem a little bit nervous about it. And Gary will say something along the lines of like, you got 40 more years, or he'll even say, you got 50 more years, whatever amount of years, you got time, you got way more time than you think. And he talks about it like a lot of times we think, man, I'm 35. I can't start over. I'm 45. I can't start over. And you feel like you don't have time, and you feel like you're supposed to have everything dialed in, but that isn't necessarily true. You tend to have a lot more time than you think you do. So, like I said, I'm 49 and I pretty much started my shit all over, about 8 years ago. So I was doing motion graphics, and I thought that was what I was going to do for my whole life. I was doing motion graphics from 2002, up until I started the graph shop and community space and all that stuff, which was in 2015. And I kept doing that stuff for a little while. And then, I'm obviously way more passionate about the graph culture than I am about the motion graphic industry. Like I like going to things and meeting graph writers and all this kind of stuff, but I have zero desire to go to something and meet a bunch of people and talk about motion graphics. Like it's a cool job. It was a cool business, but I wasn't really passionate about it. So, I was mid 40s when I essentially started over. So had I been looking at it like, oh man, I can't start over, I already put all this time into this motion graphics shit, I wouldn't be where I am now. And there's so many things that I like way more about my life now than I would have had I continued doing motion graphics. I feel like it was really starting to, it's like a soul sucking industry for me. I know there's a lot of people that feel differently about it. So I'm not shitting on the industry. It wasn't where I was supposed to be. So then the other thing I wanted to talk about is sort of like the opposite end of the spectrum. It's like, you could think like I have an abundance of time and all this kind of stuff. And I know Gary isn't talking about it on the level like, oh, you got time, you can chill, you can wait. He's mainly saying like, you got more time than you think you do. So if you really do want to start over and you're 60 years old, you can do that. If you're staying healthy and you're focused on all this kind of shit, you could even turn that around. You have time. Okay. So I think I sidetracked myself a little bit, but, so let me just say it again. I don't know if I covered everything I wanted to cover right there. So the idea is like, not so much you got plenty of time, so just chill. I don't think that's what he's saying. He's mainly kind of taking the fear out of this idea that like it's too late to do something else, or it's too late to try something. It's too late, whatever. So on the other end of the spectrum, and I use both of these. So on the other end of it is you might not have the time that you think you have, right? So I'll give you a couple of examples, and I wrote about this on my Facebook, and I think I posted it on my bus Instagram. But I have two examples that'll kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. And so a while back, a long time ago, I had this old dog, and he was a dog that was on the kill list, and I think he was rescued like in the shelter, the kill list on the in the shelter, because he was old, he had dementia, he was kind of just, real skinny and all this kind of stuff, and nobody was adopting him. So I think the day before he was supposed to be put down is when I got him. And, the idea was just like, I don't know how long this dog's going to live, but I'd rather him, just be comfortable and live in a house and stuff and be loved and all that shit. Even though, like, what was interesting about him is he didn't seem to care. Like, he didn't get excited about people. Like, when you pet him, he didn't seem to react very much and all this kind of stuff. So he was just kind of existing, So he was eating good food and, walking around in the yard and doing all this kind of shit. So that's kind of what I wanted to do for him. And so he ended up lasting a couple more years. But where the whole you might not have time shit comes in is, for the longest time, I didn't think he wanted to have anything to do with people. He was just kind of, just didn't react. I think it was kind of the dementia. Because I recently had a dog that sadly had to be put down because she was mentally just going downhill, and she wasn't living a good life anymore. But I started seeing some of those characteristics in her, and she went downhill very fast. So with this other dog, this old dog, Henry Ford was his name. So with Henry Ford, I didn't think he wanted anything to do with people because he never really got excited or anything like that. And so I would pet him and stuff, but he just didn't seem to care. But at one point, I just decided to pick him up and put him on my lap, and he was like squirming around because he didn't want to be picked up and all this kind of shit. And I put him on my lap, and then he just curled up and went to sleep. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, he actually likes something. Like, he didn't seem to like anything, I'm like, he likes this, And so I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I need to do this more often. But then he passed away. I don't know if I ever did it again. He didn't pass it. He passed away pretty shortly after that, but I definitely could have got a lot of those sessions in with him. But I thought I had plenty of time because like he still seemed fine. He just was kind of, just didn't really care about anything. So I didn't think he was going to, he passed away unexpectedly. So I really thought I had more time, and that's really something that I regret when I look back on it. I'm like, man, I wish I'd just put him on my lap more often, cause he seemed to like that. And that was like something, it was like, he didn't seem to like anything. So, so that's kind of like one of the ideas, like, you might think you have time, but then you might not, So it's about taking action and just being aggressive about doing the things that you say you're going to do, because you may not have time to do those things. So the other example is with Cub. So he and I started this podcast in 2020, and we're going strong, and I'm running a business and I'm trying to scale it. 2020 was a very busy year for the company. We were being real aggressive during all that stuff that was happening. And so obviously Cub and I were doing episodes, and then I would get really busy, and sometimes it would go 2 weeks, sometimes a month before recording an episode, and Cub would reach out and say, hey man, we got to get an episode out. We're going on this much time. And I'd be like, yeah, I know, but I'm just so busy. I just have all this stuff. And sorry, my dog's barking in the background. He's grumpy. But I'm just going to keep going through it because I don't want to lose my momentum. So anyway, had I known that he was gonna pass away, there would have, I could have made time. You know what I mean? Like I could have made time to record more episodes. It was just that I was very busy, so it was easy to be like, yeah, I'm real busy. We got all the time in the world. We'll get this going. We're gonna be doing this forever and all this kind of stuff. And so the reality is, we only got 17 episodes with him, and we probably could have got, I don't know, 30 episodes. And so I really regret that. Like that whole idea that I thought we had all the time in the world. He was living healthy. He was doing everything he was supposed to do. And then all of a sudden he was gone. And I thought I had more time. I thought I don't know what episode this is. I think it's 86 or something like that. So I thought he was going to be here for hundreds of episodes. So it was a little easier to put that off because I felt like I had the time. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't see why it wouldn't, but you might not have the time to do the things that you think, that you're putting off. You might not have time to get your health in order. There could be some shit right around the corner that, that it's urgent that you get that taken care of right now. And, even if you look at 2020, all that shit that happened, and I don't even want to say it, but, if you look at the statistics, according to the CDC, it was like, I don't remember what the exact number was. 89 or 79. It was a very, very high percentage of the people that were hospitalized or died from that shit were overweight or obese. So who knows if some shit like that's coming around again. You might not have time to get your shit together before that thing hits. I don't know. I don't know I'm not trying to get into this doom and gloom bullshit because it is what it is. But the fact is, you can't keep putting the shit off. And that this is the way I'm trying to live my life. Like I might not have time to do all of the shit that I'm putting off. You might not have time to be better in your relationship. Like if you're in a relationship and you're not really doing your part and you kind of know it, but at the same time, you're like, oh, I'll get it figured out. I mean, you might not have time. That other person may be like, you know what? I think if this dude doesn't get it together, if this girl doesn't get it together in the next couple of weeks, I'm out of here. You might not have time to fix it. So the time is now to do it, And so, I don't know, this time of year, I'm wondering if that was kind of what was sparking it, because everybody's talking about, New Year's resolutions and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, man, you might not have time to wait until Monday or wait until the 1st. That's kind of why I started 75 Hard, so that, I don't know, I think I'm on day 18 or something. And so close to the end of the year, you would think a lot of people are like, okay, cool, I'm going to start it on the 1st. And at one point I was like, man, I need to do this now. Like this, I need this right now, because I was the busiest and the most stressed I've ever been. And so what's kind of weird about that program is like, even when you're the busiest and you feel like you don't have time, like I feel like that's the best time to do it, because it really kind of sheds some light on how you manage your time. And that's exactly what it did. So it's challenging because I have a lot of things I need to get done. And then with moving the shops, there's all this setup stuff that still needs to happen, and things are still being moved around. But now is the perfect time. And then one of the bonuses too is like, I'm going into next year at full momentum rather than waiting until the 1st to start building that momentum. So, and I almost feel like these kind of like years are somewhat arbitrary. So we put this like, oh, cool, 2023 is going to be my year, new me, and all this kind of shit. And I used to do all that stuff, but I don't really see it that way anymore. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. The whole fucking idea is that you just might not have the time that you think you have. So get started right now and get aggressive. All right. Good.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And yeah, stay up.